talk about my favorite axe. I want to talk about my favorite axe company. You might be familiar with this company because it's huge. I believe it's been manufacturing axes for more than 140 years. And not just axes. Things like, blacksmithing tools. So what is this, a cross peen? I don't really know. I don't know blacksmith stuff that much. But this is basically NOS. This is essentially new old stock. It has the handle. It almost still has the sticker, which is kind of weird because the sticker looked like it was covering the stamp, the Plumb stamp. Very clean. It just has a little bit of wear on the paint, but you can see this is barely used. And here is the sledgehammer I found on the best handle I've ever held in my hands when it comes to like a double face hammer. Just a gorgeous handle, and I've been copying it. I kind of put it on the back burner, but I got to finish that because this is a great tool for riving. It was kind of a short handle, and I can't wait to get this back in service. Here's the first special Plumb I found. Well, yeah, on my own I found this. Now, the handle, it's not perfect, but this was the beginning stages of me learning how to shape a handle after a vintage handle. So this is a Plumb anchor brand. And this is an etch. This is not a stamp. You don't call them embossings. This is an etch. And it's a very special etch. It's, it shows the highest of quality. This is a premium hatchet right here. And as you can see, it's in pretty dang good shape. There's just a tiny bit of mushrooming. Nothing really going on. The edge is perfect. That's about what it was. Maybe it's a little worn on the toe and heel, but I mean, that's pretty good. Here's one of my favorite, I forget what they call it when it has pertinence or something. I forget the word, but this has initials on it. It says EEL. I think it says, or ELL. So this was a little kid's Boy Scout hatchet from probably 80, 90 years ago. You can see the paint still on the original handle. And what I love about Plumb is that they would round these swells off on the bottom. I really love that touch. It's very nice. It's a very nice touch. And as you can see, this is a really little handle. This was a little kid's hatchet. Isn't that cool? A little kid learned how to use this when he was like, 7 to 12. And this meant a lot to him. He really took care of it. I think maybe he became an adult or he got rid of it. Someone abused it. But other than that, it's in really good shape. Someone did take a bench grinder to the edge, though. I could just tell. You could tell that someone took a bench grinder to something when it has not layers, but like you could see that it was ground here and then a different angle here and then a different angle here. Instead of like blended together, it's like lines of grinding. You could just tell that it's a bench grinder. But I don't see really any evidence of it being overheated, so that's good. And it also came with a conical wedge. It's a what are they called? I'm forgetting the name, but it's a cylindrical wedge that's also tapered. And I could actually go get one. So this was a special thing that Plumb did. I forget what these are called. I can't believe I forget right now. But yeah, you can see it's like a little tornado screw. I made that up. I really don't want to lose this, so I'm going to go put this back. When you think of Plumb, you probably think of the round lug. This is a little different. I actually haven't seen another one of these too often. I probably saw one of them. It has a huge crack right here, but it has the, do they call them jet wings? Whatever they are, they're bevels. And it has this kind of design where it has this high center line. This is unusable now. I mean, look at the handle. But you know what? That's not a bad handle. I don't think this was an original handle, but it does have you have to have metal. you have to just stick whatever you have right in there to tighten it up. That's standard. Here's what I use the most from Plumb. It's a Plumb Victory hewing hatchet, and it's given me a lot of life. I mean, I think it's amazing that these axes and hatchets get worn. You just have to understand how much these are used when they're worn, because I use this quite a lot. I hone it every 10, 15 minutes sometimes, and it looks exactly the same as when I first put it on this handle. Here's one of my more special Plumbs when it comes to the whole thing. Now, it's probably not that old. It's probably 70s or something, but it's a Plumb Dayton 3-pounder with the 3 stamp, which is, I don't think I've ever seen one of these, at least complete. It does have a permabond. I'm sure that these are out there. They're probably made a lot of these, but I just don't see it very often. The weight stamp is actually right here. Beautiful axe, pretty dang clean. It still has the paper label a little bit. Now this is what everybody's looking for, right? Everybody wants a Plumb National pattern. This is a Boy Scouts of America Plumb National, which makes it a little cooler. These are essentially rafting patterns that were made with, I think the pole is hardened, but they weren't made for the same thing as a rafting pattern. I guess this was more of a consumer product. I don't know. I actually don't know. Just a guess. And this is the axe that you see on my bio, or whatever you call that. This is the axe. This is a Plumb Victory that has red paint, and it even has some holes into it for keeping it together, which I don't like that. I don't need to put a thing in there. I just, you just wedge it properly and dry the tongue out as much as you possibly can, and it won't get loose anytime soon. But this is one of my favorites. I have swung it. The handle is back when I didn't know what I was doing as much, so this is a little thicker than the head. You want your handle to be thinner than your axe head so it doesn't scrape the wood as easy. Beautiful axe. This is let's see, how much does this weigh? This is a 3.2. The weight stamp is actually on the other side, and it looks a little different than normal. I don't know if you guys could see that. Beautiful, beautiful Plumb Victory. Deep stamp. They were proud of this one. This is this has a sentimental value to me. This is a military hatchet. This is a 1942 Plumb US, or US Plumb 1942. And my grandfather was in World War II. He got injured, I think, within a month of him being there, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. He wasn't there on D-Day, but I believe he was on one of the beaches, a week or two later, maybe a little longer than that. And I actually read his diary, and it's really interesting how short the entries are. At one point, he actually thanks Hitler because they stole like cognac and butter, and they didn't steal it. They took it after defeating, I guess, someone or another part of their army. And he was a really funny guy, but I didn't know him before his injury. So when I knew my grandfather, he was always half his body was essentially not ruined, but one side of his body was messed up. After he got injured, the story that I heard was that he was going after a Browning, a big gun, and he was, hit or something, or a grenade or something. But now that I'm older, I think I've heard that it might have been friendly fire. So what happened to him was he had to relearn everything. He had to relearn how to walk. He had to relearn how to write and read. He didn't know the alphabet anymore. And he lived until he was in his mid-80s. So this means a lot to me to have something like this, because he could have had one of these. He did join the war in 1944, I believe. But, he was training far before that. You don't just join the war immediately. And so this one is special to me. I wish he was still around. I didn't know much about axes when he was around. I didn't even care about trees back then. So I wish I could have talked to him about this, and it does definitely mean something to me. I would probably never sell this. Here's a really special but messed up national pattern. Look at this, it still has the paint. So the reason why this is messed up is because look, there's like either breaks or grind marks on diagonal sides. So on the bottom here and on the top here. It's very strange. And there's also barely any tongue. This is like an inch and a half of tongue, maybe a little more. So it just barely goes in all the way. And just keeps the handle on. It's the original handle with the silver paint on one side, the gold paint on the other, and it's black throughout. This is a nice handle. I have copied it. It is branded Plumb. It says, tested Plumb Hickory, USA. This is a very cool one. I wish it was, in better shape, but maybe this came from the factory messed up. Maybe, I believe it was probably Permabond, but I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know how this works. How does it break off in there? I don't know. I don't know how that happens. Really strange, isn't it? Now, I'm not too good on the history here, but this is a Tasmanian pattern that says Plumb. I don't know how that worked, but I do know that they did make Tassies or somebody called Plumb. Maybe there was an Australian division of Plumb. I don't know. You guys tell me. But it's branded on both sides, actually. It's branded here, and it's branded here. This is the most common Plumb you'll find. This is actually an old one. This is a little carpenter's hatchet on the, looks like, might be the original handle. Oh yeah, look at that. Permabonded. So you know this is the original handle because it was stuck on there with epoxy, or whatever that was at the time. This is an autograph that's super worn autograph. Very important etch right here. This is another kind of sign of high quality when they do these elaborate etches. I guess it was for counterfeiting. They don't want people to copy their most expensive axes, so they put these unique and difficult to copy etches on there. Really cool one. And maybe I'll use this as like a kindling axe one day. This is what you guys know. Right? This is it right here. This is the Plumb Jersey round lug. Everybody knows this one. You're going to call it a rockaway if you're on eBay. It's not a rockaway. This is a Jersey pattern. Tall pole, no curve on the bit. This is a Jersey. Here's one that's a little less branded. A little more patina. Love these. I got to hang one so I can use it for hewing one day. Nice wide bit, perfect for hewing. Here's a house axe. I put on a red maple handle. As for how red maple holds up, I wouldn't do this. 18 inches is pushing it. It has lasted, but it's very bad with dent and abrasion resistance. I dented this thing, not even overstriking it like the first swing, because some wood kind of popped off of my split and kind of jammed in there. It wasn't even my fault. It just, sometimes that happens. A little piece of wood or like one of the halves of the split will just get stuck into your wood for some reason. Here's another house axe. This house axe I put on a boy's axe handle. This was originally a True Temper Hudson Bay. This handle had a True Temper Hudson Bay on it. And now it's got a little house axe, and it really looks right. Doesn't that look like it belongs? I like this. This is one of the most functional little axes I have because I put a really nice banana grind on it. Doesn't look the best, but it functions really well. And this steel is easy enough to file with a file. I mean, sharpen with a file. You can file this with you can sharpen this with a file. And that makes it very nice. It is a little soft. It does have a little damage. It's not too soft though. I think that was abuse. I don't think that was due to the steel. This is my cutiest little patootie. This is a Plumb Cruiser on its original handle, I believe. Because look at that. Look at that wedge. I mean, that looks factory to me. And this handle has a really nice old patina on it. Very thin right here. Gets a little thicker up top. Unfortunately, they put a little hole in there. I'm not sure if they hung it up or whatever, but really cool little axe. A beauty. So anyway, that's my favorite company, Plumb. It's a hardware store axe. You know, I'd imagine they're hardware store axes. These were available all over the place, and I love that kind of affordable and functional steel that they provided. I still use them. I did forget one of the users I have actually. This was a really old attempt at making a handle that was very bad, but this is a hewing hatchet, and it's a little heavier than that other one. I don't really use it anymore, but it's pretty, isn't it? It's pretty. It just says Plumb USA, and this is an old one, I believe. But yeah, usable tools, pretty tools. I mean, look at the. I don't know if you guys could see, but there's a little bit of like convexing to this. It's not just a flat. It's not just flat. Really pretty stuff. Look at the lines. Anyway, that's Plumb, guys. Thanks for watching.